Om. Let us bring our attention to this moment, to our posture. Let us take a conscious, deep, controlled, slow breath. Pause for a second. We are now ready for the inquiry through Upadesha Undiya. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Arunachala Shiva. Arunachala Shiva. Arunachala Shiva. Arunachala. Arunachala Shiva. Arunachala Shiva. Arunachala Shiva. Arunachala. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahavedyam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. We are discussing Upadesha Undiya. So the last class we saw the introduction and the context in which the teaching of the Upadesha by Lord Shiva to the rishis of Tarukavanam happened, and how Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi starts presenting the teaching, the reason and all that. So we saw that one point there I would like to clarify once more, because it's a very subtle point that distinguishes the Vedic approach to God versus what is popularly understood as surrender to God, obedience to God, or the supremacy of God over everything else, the principle of God over everything else, and why we must worship God as popularly understood due to the confused, mixed internalization of a version that combines elements from various religions. And we have some kind of a soup concept of God with a little bit of monotheistic, little bit of mystic, a little bit of Vedic, all combined together, and the popular cultures, the various sentiments. So there is a lack of clarity generally about the approach to God. That is why we hear from people, if there is God, then why are people suffering? No, we have this kind of thing. So all this comes from the idea that God is some kind of a person sitting in heaven controlling everything, and he seems to have a personal interest in the how humanity is living, and then he is very interested about each one's individual choices and all that. And then there is going to be a judgment day. So the monotheistic approach to God is very different from the Vedic understanding of the principle of Ishvara. Ishvara Tattva is understood very differently. The divine intelligence, the supreme intelligence, the supreme divine, the supreme being that is understood as the cause of this universe. That understanding is completely different from the monotheistic understanding, the theological understanding, or the theological conception, or the theological imagination of what they think God is. And because of the absence of proper study of Shastra, there is a lot of confusion. And a common man is confused about everything. A common man is confused about everything and is also very loud about everything. In Kali Yuga, in our current times, where adharma is the most dominant force, whoever is louder seems to have their way. We see that. They need not be right, they just have to be loud. Like, what happens in a traffic when you are stuck in a road situation, whether you are right or the other person is right does not matter anymore. Whoever is loud, whoever has mafia support, or whoever has the police in their hand, that person's claim will prevail over the other person. So it is all a game of how loud one is and how dominant and powerful one is. So there is no place for any dharma in many scenarios. And because of this kind of approach to every aspect of life, the domain of understanding and approach to God is also not exempt from this flaw, dosham. So this kind of a flaw affects one's approach to God also. Why should it not affect? It is affecting every domain of life. So why should one's approach to God be any better? This is why when the enquiry into Brahman starts in Brahma Sutra, it says, now after obtaining the required qualifications, enquiry into Brahman. It says now enquiry into Brahman. That acquiring the qualifications is vairagya, etc. is there, but also one must have grown out of religious ambitions. One must have grown out of ambitious spirituality, what I called as spiritual materialism also, and one must have gone through that process to some extent. And in general, one must be tuned to knowledge. It is not a mind that is devoted to knowledge, what I always refer to as pramana buddhi. This rishis in Tarukavanam, though they did not bother about God, they did not give importance to God, they had what is called pramana buddhi, because whatever spiritual materialism they followed, it was in tune with the Veda. They were looking up to Veda as pramana, purva mimamsakas, we say. Purva karmattal undipara, it says, no? In one of the shlokas, it comes in the introduction. So they were all purva mimamsa. It's a way of interpreting the Vedas as spiritual text based on which you do certain actions, certain rituals, and certain spiritual yajnas and sacrifices. And as a result, you obtain things in the here and in the hereafter. According to the quality of your sacrifice, the result will be there. It's something like you are loading your heaven prepaid card with the various Vedic karmas while you are here, which will take care of your, it's like an insurance for afterlife. It will take care of the quality of your life after you leave the physical body. And then there are these Pitru karmas, Preta karmas, and all those things. When, until you reach Pitru Loka, there are various karmas after the person is dead that is supposed to take care of the astral journey, protect that soul's journey towards the higher worlds, and guide that soul through a process and securely lodge that soul in the realm of the ancestors, which is called Pitruloka. It's a kind of a Swarga, the path of the smoke, it is called, through the rituals. Now, even though this ritualistic religion does not give moksha or liberation or what is everlasting, the eternal, it does give you a high quality mind and intellect. It does give you a great level of mastery over oneself. And because you are tuned to knowledge, pramana buddhi, if you are faced with an obstacle, when things are not working, you will be open to investigate and you will be open to stop your aggression and look at what is going on and try to understand what is behind the scenes. And like a mother who feeds a child, there is a nice episode from the life of Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna's mother Yashoda will offer him butter. Krishna likes butter. She wants to catch him because Lord Krishna was a very mischievous kid. He was going messing around with many places, stealing butter and all that. So we know that many of us have heard about this story. So what she wants to give him a good beating with a cane, but Krishna won't come. So she would be hiding the cane in the back with one hand, and with the other hand she will be showing butter. Krishna, you want butter? And poor Krishna, he will come wanting for the butter, and then she will grab him and give him a nice beating with the cane which is behind her. It's not visible. Like that, Veda, like a mother, it will promise you all the nice things that you understand. A lot of cattle, a lot of wealth, oh, long life. Pashyema charadashatam, jivema charadashatam, nandama charadashatam. There is a prayer. Let us enjoy for 100 years. Let us live for 100 years. Let us enjoy the 100 years. Let us revel in joy for 100 years. Let us have progeny and live with a great family for 100 years like that. Let us do wonderful sacrifices and attain heavens by a virtuous life for 100 years. Like that, there is a prayer. When you invoke the grace of Lord Surya, the, the, the divine being associated with the sun, and you invoke the grace for a complete, joyful, long life, healthy life. Nothing wrong. Huh? So, Veda, when it is keeping you busy with all the pursuit of the things that your little human brain can understand, the things that you can visualize and see, the temporary goals, and with all the promises in this life and in the life after, it is like a very intelligent mother. While it is showing all this, behind the scenes, it is developing your viveka, it is developing your sattva, it is developing your vairagya. It purifies you. The mantras purify you. They will say, you have to do all this ritual will give you that ritual will give you the other thing, like that. But in order to do the rituals, you will have to do Nitya Karma. Nitya Karma will keep you at a certain level of purity. And part of Nitya Karma, everyday ritualistic practice and the devotional practices, part of that everyday ritualistic commitments is chanting of the Gayatri mantra, the Savitri mantra in Gayatri meter. Trikala Sandhya Gayatri. Gayatri says, purify my intellect. May that Supreme Being guide my intellect. How will the Supreme Being guide your intellect towards something stupid? It will obviously gradually take the course of your intellect towards towards the light, towards knowledge, towards what is more eternal. and towards the absolute. It will turn your intellect from ignorance to light. Asatoma Jyotirgamaya. No? That is the job of the grace. So invoke the grace. Without this practice, you are not qualified for any other ritual. No, but this Gayatri is working in the background to purify the mind. No? So the Mother Veda very cleverly has given a package that will not allow you to be stuck in this. It will wake you up to the higher possibility sometime or the other by bringing the element of grace, at least after a few hundred or 1,000 well lived lives. It will come one fine morning. Like how it came for these masters, these sorcerers in the Tarukavanam, where Lord Shiva came and as a manifestation to guide them as their guru. Like that. It's a promise of grace, Swadhyaya Pratishtayam Ishtadevata Samprayogaha. There is a Yoga Sutra. By the being established in Swadhyaya, one comes into touch with one's Ishtadevata. The teaching will come to you. Right? So, it's a very different approach. And from this we see, from the introduction, we see a main point, and also when the teachings, the reason, why the various incantations and the sorcery, black magic that these masters tried over this avatara of Lord Shiva, who has come to teach. They tried all that and everything failed in front of him. And he made all those astras, the weapons, he has made them as his ornament. None of their karmas could give the predicted result. While it worked for everyone else, it did not work in front of the Lord. Now, this is a demonstration done by the Lord in order for them to get open their minds to a higher reality as a possibility. So this is where the concept of a God comes here. Very important to understand the approach to the concept of God. Ishvara Tattva, how we approach it is very different from monotheism. It is not about one very powerful God dominating over these things and creating inconsistency in the Vedas. It is the Vedas are considered as the breath of God. So if he is himself is making the Vedas fail, then where is the consistency in him being a God? That can be one kind of an objection that we can raise. Another, I can say, see, why should I follow the Veda? Why should I follow all the rituals and everything? Because one fine morning, this God will go crazy and decide and come and make all of these useless. So why should I struggle? Let me just eat, sleep, make merry, and enjoy my life. So because it is an inconsistent God after all, so never know what this powerful guy will do. One fine morning, like this, crazy president of a powerful country. One fine morning, this God decides to make a mess with my spiritual life. All the rituals I have done, and all the yajnas I have done, and all the struggle I went through to get my post in heaven and all that, everything will go waste because I cannot do anything against this fellow, and this fellow is so powerful and he may go crazy. What happens if I go to Veda promises heaven, and I go to heaven and then God decides, hey, I don't like you, I don't want you to be in heaven, you will not get the result, go back to earth. Okay, you incarnate as some animal, but my rituals are supposed to give me some result. So an inconsistent God makes the whole of the Veda meaningless. All the religious life that one lives as a command of the Veda becomes meaningless and pointless in front of a possibility of an inconsistent God who is all powerful. You know, this is a huge problem. So here is where it is important to understand the and arrive at the correct approach to God. This is what I want to discuss today, and also to answer the question that was posted in the class. Now, what is God? From the perspective of an individual who is living in ignorance, let us arrive at the approach to God. I am here, individual. You are here, right? You, me. I am perceiving this world, and the scripture tells me, and all the masters tell me, and I also seem to have a kind of an intuitive guess about something from which all this came. What is that supreme cause from which all this came? That that from which all this came, that in which all this is sustained, that into which all this goes back in the end, that ultimate principle is there. Vitoga imani bhuta nichayante. This comes in the Upanishads. So that from which all this came. That is a definition which is being given. Avantara Vakyam is called. A kind of a functional indirect way of approaching. So it's the initial approach to God by an individual. The Brahmeti, that is Brahman. Here we are assuming by the light of the revelation of the Shruti, we are assuming. Why I am using the word assuming? Because as an individual, I don't know. There is one God or many gods or many causes. Is there one ultimate principle or many principles? I don't know. But Shruti says it is one ekameva dvitiyam. So I take that and I go from there. In our modern language, there is this thing in science called the hard problem of consciousness. You can do a web search and read about it. The hard problem of consciousness. Is consciousness more fundamental to matter, or is consciousness an emergent property from the organization of matter? So, in other words, because I have a brain, because of the property of the brain and the chemistry in the brain, I am experiencing myself as an individual and I am experiencing myself as a conscious entity. I exist because of brain. This is the materialistic version of the hard problem of consciousness. One option called consciousness as the emergent property. Like how, no, this is also the approach of the Charvakas. There is a philosophical school in ancient India called the Charvakas. They also say that once the body is gone, the consciousness is gone, there is nothing left. Emergent property. They even have this emergent property. There is an example. They say, like alcohol, fruit is there, the yeast is there. The fruit does not intoxicate you. It does not, have this property to, it doesn't have alcohol. It doesn't intoxicate you. But you ferment the fruit in the right way, in the right conditions and all that, it acquires a certain ability to intoxicate you. But eating the fruit alone doesn't bring you this thing. So only it goes through a process like that. Because of the elements of nature, they combine and metamorphose into a certain way. There is this experience of consciousness. This is the example given in Charvaka. Okay? So basically, what science says, consciousness as the emergent property from matter. This is one possibility. The hard problem of consciousness. There is another possibility. Consciousness is fundamental to everything. Matter evolved and emerged out of consciousness. Consciousness is fundamental. This is one. The Shastra says consciousness is fundamental. Now, the science cannot conclude this or that. If consciousness is fundamental, I cannot prove or disprove the fundamental nature of consciousness from the matter that is emergent from consciousness. The matter and all the perception that we have, which is dependent on matter, all the scientific instruments and experiments we have that is dependent on matter, which is the effect. So from the effect, I cannot understand the cause. I need something more fundamental or equivalent to the cause to understand that. No, I have to have something that is of the same nature to understand the fundamental principle. So we say anadikata. What is available in the Shruti or the Veda is not available for any other means of knowledge. It cannot be proven or disproven by any other means of knowledge. This is the definition of a valid means of knowledge. What the eyes can see, the ear cannot prove or disprove. What the ears can hear, the eyes cannot prove or disprove. The domain of knowledge is entirely different. So, similarly, consciousness as fundamental or not cannot be conclusively arrived at by science. It can only be given as a more probable proposition, a statistical proposition, or it can be proposed as an axiom. You know, I take it as an axiom. Consciousness is fundamental. Everything came from the power of consciousness. Like that, I assume, and from there, I work my mathematics and I work out my scientific theories. That includes consciousness as a fundamental principle. Then my entire approach to matter and all that is there. Then I have a theory, and then I can test the theory with experiments and see which theory is more consistent. All that is scientific method comes later. But this fundamental idea that consciousness is fundamental and everything else came from consciousness can only be an assumption or an axiom or a statistical probability and not a conclusive knowledge at the level of perception and reason. It can be taken only through a domain of through a means of knowledge that is superior to perception and reason, which we call as Shruti with the Veda, that is considered as emergent from the source itself. It came along with the creation from the Ishvara himself. So Veda is the pramana that tells us about the nature of this ultimate cause from which everything came. So this ultimate ground of existence, that which truly exists, Chaitanyam, what we call as Satchidananda, Brahman, that is proposed, that is revealed to us. What is that? Is revealed to us by the Veda, by the Shruti, through the rishis. Again, who are again conscious beings. Now, this ultimate principle, Brahman, in relation with the effect or creation, it is something like, let us say, the ocean. All that is there is water. You go to a beach and look at the water, the sea. All that is there is water. Right? We call it ocean in that context. So, in the context of the waves, in the context of the waves, we call the water as ocean. So, in relation to the waves, it is ocean. But what is it actually? Water. There is oceanness in which the waveness appears. One example. Another example. You are in a dream. You see a lot of things in the dream. There may be a TV, a sofa, a hall, a few things, a clock, some art pieces, maybe some other person in the room. All this is there in your dream. And you are looking at that, you are interacting with that space around you. Maybe you are watching a movie, having some snacks. Oh, this is a dream scene. Then you wake up. Now I am asking you from the waking state to think about the dream. What was the table in the dream made of? What was the Documents which are on top of the table made of, what was the paperweight in the dream that was on top of the documents made of? You'll say wood, paper, and glass or ceramic. I will say no. The entire dream world is made of you, made of the power of your mind, consciousness. It is you, the conscious being, who appears as the dream. Then I will ask, where is the paper? Then I will open your head and look at paper. Do you have wood inside your head? No, right? So, all the different materials that we see and experience, you play a musical instrument in the dream, that entire sound and everything, people appreciate it. All the variety that you see in dream is an appearance that rests on the power of projection, which is again resting on the fundamental power of consciousness, which is operating in your mind through the structure of information and memory. Through the matrix of information in the mind, the power of consciousness acts and projects the dream, just like how the light falls on the film and projects the images on the screen. I'm talking about old times when there was a film roll. Now it is digital. So, but film is easier to explain. Like that, it is the information. No, like you see, for example, a laser show. That is even easy. You see a laser show, you have various shapes coming on the sky. No, there is a big dragon that is moving on the sky and it is spitting fire. There is a red dragon, there is a blue dragon coming on the sky. Laser show, beautiful. Oh, is there a dragon? No, there is only light. The laser light, the pointer, many hundreds of laser lights moving in synchronicity in a certain way that makes the dragon appear. In reality, there is no dragon. It is the light that appears as the dragon in relationship with the persistence of vision in your visual perception. Correct? So, I would say the relationship between your consciousness and the dream. Let's come back to the dream. In your dream, when you are out of the dream, and I'm asking you about the dream, I will ask you, what is the relationship between you, the conscious person, and the dream? You will say, I am the cause of the entire dream. The dream world is an appearance. As long as the dream world appears, I am the creator of the dream and also the character inside the dream. I am also the dream world and all the things in the dream. The dream world is not separate from me, but I am not limited by the dream. Because after I wake up, I still exist. The dream world is not there anymore. The dream world came out of me. The dream world is sustained in me. And the dream world is resolved back into me upon my waking up from sleep. Right?
जय जगन्नाथ।
उस दिन आपको मैं लव किया
Is
था।
there a problem in the volume?
थैंक यू।
मैं चाय को बोलने के लिए
ओके भैया।
मुझे पता नहीं, मैं उधर ही था ऋषभ से एक बार।
अच्छा सॉरी यार।
Can whoever is talking put a mute, please? Is there a problem? Okay. May I continue? I don't know what happened. Okay. So, this consciousness, the ultimate principle, the Brahman, the supreme cause of this world, when seen in relationship with this experiential world that we have, when seen from this experience of individuality and this multiplicity that we experience, when that ultimate is considered from here, the relationship between the manifest and the unmanifest, the unseen supreme cause, is that of a creator and the created. When the ultimate principle is seen from the perspective when the ultimate principle is seen from the perspective of the created being, the individual, from me as an individual, when I think about the ultimate, then I call that ultimate principle as God in relationship to me. Later I may understand it, all this is me and I and God are one, all that comes later. But until we go there, while I am in the practical level, when I am an individual, I am experiencing myself as an individual and I know nothing better. My relationship to the ultimate cause of this universe is as God. So the supreme being, the supreme reality in relationship with the experiential apparent reality is presented as, understood as, and experienced as God, and related to as God. Okay. Now this is extremely different from the monotheistic conception of God. This is a very subtle point that we need to understand. So Ishvara Tattva is there only as long as I am ignorant. So Ishvara is a concept like a catalyst. The God concept in the Hinduism, in the Vedic approach, is like a catalyst. It is valid as long as your individuality is valid. As long as there is ignorance, there is I, world, and God. As long as there is individuality experienced, so long there is God. God is the way, is the framework through which I am connecting to and relating to the ultimate that is not affected by this creation. So, there is functional approach to God. Now, based on this understanding, there is a functional approach to God which is beautifully explained in the Yoga Sutra. Tasya vachaka pranavaha, his designator is Om. When you see the meaning of Om, you will understand, and related to what we discussed today, you will understand what exactly it is. You will understand the same point. Tasya vachaka pranavaha. Then it says Ishvara Pranidhanadva, Samadhi is attained by Ishvara Pranidhana. And after that, it talks about what is Ishvara. Ishvara is that special person. Klesha karma vipakashayer aparamrishta purusha vishesha Ishvaraha. God is that special individual or that person or the Purusha. God is that special being, the conscious being, who is not affected by the various limitations, by the cycle of time, and who is not affected by the cause and effect and all these karma cycles and everything. That one who is not affected by karma, space, and time, and that who is that special being who is not limited by time, who is eternal, is God. Kalena navache purveshamapi guruhu kalena navacheja. That person is omniscient. The limit of omniscience is in God. Is the guru of even all the masters in all the previous cycles of creation also, because the supreme being is not affected by the cycles of time. Now these are all various functional definitions of God which are good enough to take us up to that point of knowledge. In Panchadashi, Bhagavan Vidyaranya calls it as a useful superimposition and useful projection and useful illusion. Like he says, there is a gem in a dark forest. It is emitting its light. I don't see the gem, but somewhere I see this light. I just keep on following the light. This light is not the gem, but when I keep following the light, it ultimately leads me to that gem, that gemstone. Right? It's like I see the light and it leads me to the fire. Like that, this functional definition of God can be operated, can be used like a catalyst to purify the mind and take me to that point of readiness where the truth can be revealed and the ignorance can be destroyed. That is what is the whole point of this context, where God demonstrating that all the karmas are useless. It is a it is a special action done by the avatara in order to convey a point. It is like Morpheus coming into the matrix. Like that, this avatara comes inside your realm of ignorant consciousness and wakes you up to a possibility. The Lord Shiva is waking up this rishis to a possibility. Hey, there is a principle, there is an ultimate principle which is not affected by karma and result of karma, that which is not limited by anything, which is beyond all those things that you know, that by knowing which you will be completely free forever, because all these little karmas and the various rituals and the various accomplishments that you have, they are all going to be destroyed in time. Kshine punye martye lokam vishanti. Once the punya, the good karma, the result of all your good karmas, the prepaid card is over, your heavenly life will come to an end and you will come back. Whatever wealth you have earned, after you have spent that wealth, you will have to earn the wealth again. Whatever you need to earn it. And whatever you have earned, you have to preserve it. No matter how much you preserve, either what you have preserved will be finished or you will be finished as an individual, and the capacity to enjoy what you have preserved will be finished. So the cycle of time is controlling all these things. None of what you attain is eternal, but there is something called eternal. And this knowledge of this eternal can free you from all these struggles. So to wake them up to that possibility, he is creating a magic there. He is demonstrating his power, where all the sorcery of this people are failing and is not able to give the expected result of controlling this person. This person controls everything. So then they say, oh, there is something bigger than what we know. And then they open up to the teaching. So that is the point here. So we have to see it in context and not overextend this context to start questioning about God. This is an act of compassion. It is an act of grace. The power of grace of God comes there to wake them up to a higher possibility. That is how we have to see this. This is why a traditional interpretation is important, so that it steers our understanding in the right direction towards the purpose, which is our ultimate good. The other word for which is Shreyas. Which brings me to answering the question. I also have another question here. Why do we feel that the dream state is unreal while the waking state is real, taking into account that both are unreal for the ignorant? Beautiful question. I'll come to that. This is one of the fundamental questions in Vedanta. As we study more and more, we will understand it better, but I will try to address it after I address the first question. Oh, that's a fantastic question. Good. Could you please explain about prayas and shreyas you mentioned in the last class? Prayas, the word comes from the root word which means what is pleasant, what I can understand and experience as pleasing, something that is relatable, immediate result, something that is comfortable and pleasing to the senses. And that which is pleasing for my ego, I can extend it, pleasing to the senses, pleasing to the body, pleasing for my ego, and pleasing for my projection, for my understanding. Oh, when you tell a child, oh, we are going to take you to the Disney World. The Disney World, you can meet Donald Duck, take a photo with it, hug the Donald Duck, all that, and all the various things. Or if the kid is crazy about Lego, you say, I'm taking you to the Lego land. You give all that. The kid is very excited. You hear that. And then when you are traveling, you climb the plane and then you go there. When you're traveling, you're very excited. The joy is even more. Then once you land in Disney World, once you see that Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse and all that, it's great. Your joy is the maximum. You attain satisfaction. And then what happens? Vacation is over. You come back to school. So, Priya, Moda, Pramoda. There are 3 levels of happiness: relative happiness, experiential happiness. of obtaining an experience in time through a finite effort using finite means. So, whatever you have obtained, the result is also finite. From finite through finite means to arrive at a finite accomplishment, which makes you experience the emotion called happiness and various grades of joy for a certain period of time, after which again something else pops up. Again, you are in the cycle of action, process, result of action, enjoyment. Again, the cycle keeps on repeating, right? This is something we understand. Then, so within this realm of relative happiness that is time bound, there are short term happiness and long term happiness. Now, compared to these two, for example, short term happiness, oh, it's nice to have a packet of potato chips and Coke. Very nice. You drink that Coca Cola or all these cola drinks or whatever drink you like. Very nice, nice experience. It goes so nicely inside. And then, having this potato chips, watch some cartoon or some movie or something. It's nice. Up to a point until your eyes are tired, until acidity comes. If you're able to do it within a certain limit, yeah, it works. That's nice. On the other hand, to have some healthy meal instead of watching TV, probably to play a game of chess, which requires training. If you want, talking about music, to understand, to able to enjoy some rock music or some pop music, which is not very complex, which is immediately pleasing. It excites your senses. It excites your emotions. It relates to some emotion that you have. So you are able to enjoy that. Compare that with baroque music or some classical Hindustani or Carnatic music, which requires training and training your senses, training your understanding and framework. You have to create a musically intelligent brain in order to be able to derive pleasure from the classical music. But if you train yourself for classical music, you experience a higher quality of mind than what you would experience in a pop music. What we call as sattva in our yogic language, the sattva is more. So, for all those experiential joys which are of sattvic nature, they are long lasting. But if you are a very instinct driven person, it is not easy to appreciate a sattvic enjoyment compared to a rajasic or a tamasic enjoyment. This is one. Another, if I want to become a more sattvic person, if I want to become a more refined person, a more cultured person, I have to develop my discrimination to stop indulging in what is familiar and relatable in order to make myself qualified for something that I conceptually understand as better, but I am not able to appreciate it right now. But if I go through the process of training and discipline, I will be able to understand, appreciate it, and derive the pleasure from that. A very simple thing like stopping to eat onion and garlic. It's very nice to eat masala vada. Very nice. But if I stop eating onion and garlic for 3 months, it brings a certain subtle nature in my body. It reduces the tamas and all that. And after 3 or 6 months, combining with pranayama, some yogic practice, mantra chanting, ekadashi fasting, and all that, my whole palate becomes sattvic. And the way something affects my mind, and I am more tuned to sattvic taste. And if I am given a masala vada, I'll be like, wow, what is this? It's so gross. It feels absolutely gross. Then I have to go through the entire process of deconditioning myself in order to enjoy the masala vada again. But if once I have purified myself, I cannot enjoy masala vada like how I enjoyed before. Previously, I was not able to enjoy a very subtle tasting, some uh, some sattvic food that has been offered at the altar, prasada. I'm not able to bring that intense joy out of it as much as I brought it out of my, indulgent onion garlic based food before. But after I go through this process of purification, I am able to appreciate the subtler thing more, which is healthier for me. All the sattvic things are not only pleasurable but also healthy. So when compared to this tamasic enjoyments, rajasic achievements are better. When compared to tamasic pleasures, rajasic pleasures are shreyas, while tamasic pleasures are preyas, immediately pleasing. But in order to not give in to laziness, but to work for some higher cause like patriotism, protecting my clan, protecting my country, establishing dharma in the society, fighting for a cause, dedicating myself to a cause. These are all rajasic, but these are good in the long run. These are a higher pleasures, a higher form of joy, which a lazy, indolent, ignorant person may not understand. But in order for me to arrive at this level, I have to be in the company of the virtuous, the righteous, the principled, the warriors, and all that. And then slowly I wake up to that. I elevate myself. So when I want to elevate myself from tamas to rajas, I will have to discriminate and say, oh, that is better for me in the long run when compared to this one, which is immediately pleasing, but I need to give this up in order to arrive there. Like what we do in a diet. I have to go through this diet process in order to arrive at a long lasting kind of a happiness, which is healthy body. Right? So this is relative. Prayas and Shreyas. Prayas is immediately pleasing, Shreyas is what is good in the long run. So when compared to Rajasic achievements, things like self-knowledge, meditation, all those they are more sattvic. So the sattvic achievements are subtler and finer. It takes a little more discrimination to appreciate, understand, and appreciate sattvic joys and pleasures when compared to Rajas. Rajasic is easier to understand. Sattvic requires a little bit more of purity, a little bit more of discernment. It takes time. A little bit more of maturity is required. So, sattvic pleasures and joys and happiness is more Shreyas compared to Rajasic. Rajasic is Preyas, but Sattvic is Shreyas compared to Rajasic. So, within the realm of the limited, you have Preyas and Shreyas. Short term enjoyment and long term enjoyment. Now, this is within the matrix. Now, there is something entirely something else that is called the eternal, that which is always there, which is never touched by time, that which is never lost once attained. Once attained, you don't come back into the world of the limited. That which is eternal, what is called as moksha, liberation, atma jnana, self-knowledge, attaining the supreme being, the Brahman, oneness with God, all this, that is eternal. Now that is completely something else. Now when compared to that, if I call that as Shreyas, when I call that eternal happiness, which is our own true nature, which is of the nature of self-realization, which is the nature of God or oneness with God, or moksha or liberation, when compared to that eternity, which is liberation, the eternal life, when compared to that, all this so-called short-term and long-term attainments, which is of the nature of sattva, tamas, rajas, and sattva, all this becomes praise. Whatever I called as shreyas before, whatever I called as a long-term happiness before, becomes a short-term happiness, becomes a praise, becomes understandably pleasing and limited when compared to this unlimited. So this all that I called as shreyas when I was an ignorant person, all that becomes prayers when compared to the eternal attainment called liberation. So ultimately, the word Shreyas refers to liberation, but relatively it may refer to long term happiness, like a joy that comes from following Dharma, compared to the joy that comes from just enjoying artha and kama, pleasures and wealth and accomplishment. When compared to that, the joy obtained from sharing your wealth with somebody who needs it, that is a that shreyas, that is more long lasting. The result of sharing your prosperity with the one in need in a proper way, in the proper context, with the proper method and everything, to the right person, to the deserving person, the sattvic charity, that generates something called as apurva, an unseen wealth that follows you even after death to the next life. So it is considered as more long, it is considered as shreyas compared to just enjoying my wealth and putting all my money in my own pleasures. Compared to this, that is shreyas, that is more sattvic. But renouncing everything in order to realize the supreme being, yage naike amrtatva manasoho, not by birth, na karmana, not by actions, na prajaya, not by progeny, dhanena, not by wealth, tyage naike, by giving up, by renunciation alone, amrtatva manasoho, the eternal is attained. It comes in Ishavashi. Okay. So when compared to the eternal, all this is praise, and eternal alone is Shreyas. So for the one who has really understood and arrived at that spiritual clarity, only one thing is Shreyas for that person. Nischayatmika Buddhihi, the one who has come to a very clear understanding. Ekeha Gurunandana. It's only Bahushaka hi Anantascha Buddhayor Avyavasayana. There are so many accomplishments which are considered as worth pursuing for those who lack understanding. But those wise people who have arrived at the right understanding, there is only one thing that is worth pursuing as Shreyas, which is liberation. So liberation alone is Shreyas. Moksha or Atma Jnana, the self realization or God realization or oneness with God, that alone is Shreyas. Everything else is praise for the one who has developed the highest understanding. So, this is how we understand relative Shreyas and absolute Shreyas, and the word Shreyas and praise according to the context. So, when we are talking about Shreyas in Bhagavad Gita, in the Upanishads, the Shreyas word refers to liberation only, self realization only. In the context of Dharma and all that, whenever Shreyas is discussed, it may refer to more long lasting human values, eternal values, we say, this truth, compassion, uh, beauty, and all those things can be referred to as non-violence. These can be considered as Shreyas. Like, for example, in United Nations, Kanchi Shankaracharya sent M.S. Subbulakshmi to sing, was invited to sing there, Srimati M.S. Subbulakshmi, a great singer in the past from India. She was invited to sing in the United Nations, and she needed a song what to sing. And then Kanchi Shankaracharya Mahaswami, he composed a song, and he wrote a song, the lyrics, and then in Sanskrit, and she put music to that, and then it was sung in the United Nations. You can search in YouTube M.S. Subbulakshmi Maitrim Bhajata song in United Nations. If you say the original video is available, you can see it's a beautiful song. Along with the lyrics and the meaning is available in online. You can read that. Maitrim Bhajata Akilahit Jitrim. In order to win the entire world, seek friendliness. Seek to win the entire world through friendliness. Maitrim Bhajata Akilahit Jitrim. Atmavat Eva Paranapi Pashyata. See others as you see yourself, like that it comes. In the last line, he says like a blessing, Shreyo Bhuyat Sakala Jananam. May all the people obtain Shreyas. May all the people obtain what is lasting. It may also mean the right way of Dharma and the right way, the righteous way of life that leads them to the highest goal. And it also means the highest goal. So, depending on the context, the word Shreyas takes meaning. So, with this, I will conclude. Unfortunately, I could not address that question. That's a very deep philosophical question. I'm going to copy that and keep it in my WhatsApp, and I'm going to deal with this question in the next class. So, until then, we keep our contemplation going on. And please come with more questions in the next class, if at all you. If you do some real thinking and contemplation, you will definitely have questions. So, this question is a well thought out question, and I want to deal with it in a elaborate manner. I will deal with it in the next class. So, when we understand the whole of Vedanta and the basic framework, we will understand the answer to this question. Why do we feel the dream state unreal while waking state it real? Taking into account that both are unreal for the ignorant. This is because of the conditioning based on the subtle body called Sukshma Sarira. That is why it requires the whole teaching of Vedanta to understand the unrealness of the waking state. That much I will tell now and finish this class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Thank you.